Any other tips that you would have for maybe one of those entrepreneurs that, maybe they're struggling right now. They're kind of like dying on the vine. They're trying to get their business going. They don't know how to use social media. They don't know how to build their brand. They don't know anything about marketing. They don't know. I mean, what is there anything that you could throw at them to say, look, a couple things that you need to look out for and think about?
Yeah, you're only as good as your top of the funnel. So every single business, is only as good as their top of the funnel. So what do I mean by that? You got to talk to your buyers or your potential buyers as much as possible. I don't care if you're trying to figure out what your product is, or if you have your product, but you need more customers. We got to figure out ways how we can get top of the funnel. And if you're not good at social media, okay, let's figure out another way to get top of the funnel. If you are really good at social media, great. Let's see how we can leverage it to get top of the funnel. But every single business, I don't care who you are, you got to figure out how you can get top of the funnel. For me, with my first startup, we got scrappy. We were a funded startup, but not super well funded. We didn't have a lot of connections in the space. So we had to learn, and how we got our customers was through cold email outreach. And that's how we got good at getting customers, was we did it all through cold email. And now I have a company where that's how we help our startups that we work with to get at bats with their potential customers. And we do it through cold email, but that's what we're really good at. So for anyone listening, figure out how you can get top of the funnel, whether it's through cold email, whether it's through figuring out social media marketing, whether it's through handing out flyers in town, whatever gets you top of the funnel. I don't care, but you got to get the at bats, and you got to do it before you feel like you're ready, because that's the only way you're going to learn how to sell, learn what product the market wants, and get those first customers in the door. Because if we don't get those first customers in the door, we don't have a chance of building a real business, because we need that feedback. We need to be able to iterate. We need to be able to build out our product or service.
I love that you're saying that, because my whole mantra for over 25 years has been, you got to have appointments. I mean, I tell my agents, you got to have at least 10 appointments a week. 10 appointments a week will, generally you'll close maybe 3, 4, 5. If you're really good, maybe 6 or 7 of those. And you will blow away anybody, any competition, you'll blow them all out of the water if you just have 10 appointments a week. And so everything for me throughout all the years when I was in the field, mostly, that's all I would think about. I just wanted to make sure that on Sunday night, I was booked for my entire week. As long as I looked at my calendar on Sunday night and I had it completely filled from, every single day, this is what made me sleep well. And if I didn't, and if it was Sunday night and I didn't have, I knew that I was going to have a not so good week, because it was all about, like you said, and we just call it having booked appointments, but you call it top of the funnel or whatever. But it was just a matter of, if you don't have appointments, you have nobody to sell to. So you could be great at social media. You could be great at doing YouTube videos. You could have your own podcast. You could do all this crap. But if you don't have appointments, you got nothing. You don't have anybody to go see. You don't have anybody to sell to. You have nobody to recruit. So it always starts, at least for me, it was always about the activity. The big activity creates big results. And I think that, and I want you to go into more detail of how you do it through email, but email is just prospecting. That's all it is. It's doing the prospecting for you. So can you kind of dive a little bit deeper into what makes emails so viable even in this day and age? Because some people think email marketing is not the best way to do it. So talk to me about that.
Absolutely. And really what every appointment represents, like what you're describing. And when you don't have a lot of appointments coming up in the week, it's like you really don't feel like you have hope that week. When you have appointments, when you have meetings, that represents hope. And the worst is when I talk to startups and they're like, I'm not getting any meetings. I'm not talking to any potential customers. They have no hope. They have no hope in every business. I don't care if you've raised money or you haven't, you need to get sales, and you can only get sales if you get those at bats. So for me, it just represents hope. It represents opportunity. So in terms of, yes, you're right, Daniel. Most of the time email doesn't work. Like on average, we get 121 emails a day. We ignore 111 of them. So you got to do it right. So for us, the reason why I like email as an avenue for almost any startup, especially any business to business startup. If you're selling it to corporations, it could be huge for you. But anyone who's B2B, you should be focused on email. And the reason why, because it can be a very inexpensive way to get a lot of meetings, to get a lot of appointments, get a lot of top of the funnel, whatever you want to call it. So a couple of big things you need to do. Number one, you have to get good lists. So if you get bad lists, what happens? Bad emails, you're sending bad emails, doesn't land in the inbox, goes into spam. Now the rest of the emails you send on your domain are going to go into spam. So you have to get a lot of lists of good contacts with accurate emails. That's number one. Number two, you got to write a good email, of course. That first email is very important. So what we do is we are not gimmicky. We are very straight to the point. Here's the purpose of our email. Here's the problem we solve. Here's our solution. Here's our social proof. Here's our call to action. Everything in its own line, short, sweet, 5-6 sentences, get direct to the point as quickly as possible. So that's very key. But so much of the power is in the follow-ups. If you just send one email, you're only getting about 17% of the appointments that you could be getting. So you got to follow up. We follow up about 8 times a 9-point sequence, and it takes on average about 3.5 emails to get one successful meeting booked. So with cold email, just like in life, so much of the fruit comes from the persistence and doing it professional. Don't follow up and say, hey, why haven't you responded to me yet? What's your problem? No, it's not their job to respond to you. You got to make things short, sweet, to the point. Just say, hey, if you're interested, am I worth 15 minutes of your time? Basically, that's it. And if you're not interested, please let me know. I'll stop emailing you. The next big thing though. Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please continue.
Yeah. So the last big thing that you then have to focus on is what's your infrastructure that you have to handle the responses that you're going to be getting. So what are your templates? How are you booking the meetings using a tool like Calendly? You have to make sure that infrastructure is in place. You're not inundated with too many responses, and you don't want to have to handle that all on your own. And then the last thing, which really should have been the first thing, is you have to make sure email inbox is set up properly. Your domain is set up properly. 80% of inboxes are not set up. I mean, like DKIM, SPF, SMTP server, stuff like that, which is basically the highway to get your emails delivered. So those are the 4 big things that every startup needs to focus on. And it's not as complicated as it might sound.
How important is, I mean, I think that's wonderful, but how important is having a brand when you're trying to build a business? I mean, I notice, like, because I mean, just looking at a lot of people, a lot of salespeople, because obviously we're both always trying to sell something, right? We have companies we're trying to sell, we're trying to get in front of clients, we're trying to, grow it. And how important is having a brand? Because I see people, they have no brand, they have no social proof, they have no background of what they did. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like as a consumer, like when I put myself on the consumer side, I'm always very leery if somebody doesn't have a brand or they don't have a good company that's backing them or having, some sort of social proof. Is that like a reality in our today's world, do you think?
People are going to do their due diligence. So at the very least, a website, it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. We need something to show, hey, this is not a scammer. So yes, you at least need the bare minimum. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, though, you have to sell before you're ready. So if you're like, hey, I'm just starting off, I don't have a beautiful website, I don't have a ton of social proof, we have to figure out how we can at least package up your brand in a way that's simple, that will show some type of social proof. So ideally, yes, you have a great brand, but when you're just starting off, maybe you don't have that quite yet, but we have to figure out how we can package up your social proof as quickly as possible. So everybody out here has some type of social proof, whether it's your previous history, work that you've done for other people, like there's some type of social proof we can squeeze out of you. But yes, ideally, you at least have to have a website that doesn't make you look like, you're a scammer in the basement and God knows where.
If you like this video and you want to watch another one, click right here. If you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.